UFC Tuesdays are the most magical days because that's where the real work is put in on the matchmaking. We know this is when Hunter Campbell, Dana White, all their little minions get in the war room and they just cook. How are we going to supply the best fights? Now, a lot of the time we hate on them because they usually just don't do their job and make bad fights. But I'll tell you what, we got to clap it up because these cards are insane. Last week I talked about UFC 333 and my visceral reaction of me living alone and being alone and talking to air and talking to the world about how good this card is. But UFC 331 is not as good, but honestly one of the cards of the year. Absolutely one of the cards of the year. One of the best cards for sure. In this video, we are doing my UFC 331 card predictions. And in the last video, it was a very early predictions because that's like 2 months away, UFC 333. This one is, I don't know. When is this? September 19th. That's less than a month. So let's get into this. I'm going to start here in the featured fight in the early prelims. Giga Chikadze versus Joe Anderson Brito. I'm going to go with Joe Anderson Brito. The reason why I'm going to do that, I think he's overall the more skilled fighter, and I think he's going to go very grapple heavy, and I think he's going to control Giga Chikadze for 3 rounds and get a either submission win or a decision win. Now this fight's kind of interesting. Edmund Shabazian versus Bruno Ferreira. Edmund Shabazian versus Bruno Ferreira. This one's kind of tough to call because Bruno Ferreira has fought way better competition than Edmund Shabazian. Edmund Shabazian's hardest fight was Brendan Allen, which is a hard fight. But before that, the level of competition wasn't all there. Bruno Ferreira, on the other hand, has fought good opponents. He lost to RoboCop and recently lost to Ikram Alaskarov. But he also has a few good wins, one of those being RoboCop. But Edmund Shabazian, I think, is the more polished prospect. Bruno Ferreira likes to find that kill shot. And I think because this is going to be a mainly striking match, I think I have confidence in Edmund Shabazian of sticking and moving, being very technical, very skilled on the feet. And as long as he doesn't get caught by a big shot, as long as he stays switched on for 3 rounds, establishes his range, establishes his pace on the fight, I think he should win by decision or KO. So I'm going to go with Edmund Shabazian. Wow. One of the most interesting fights. I don't think I would have bet that I would never see this fight be made ever. Heavyweight Tai Tuivasa versus Robelis de Spain. Fun fact, I actually met Robelis de Spain at a BJJ competition in Tampa. Super cool guy. Took a picture with him. And at the time, he wasn't a UFC fighter because he got released. And I thought it was kind of ironic because what is he doing coaching someone else at BJJ when, I mean, he kind of gets controlled. He got controlled throughout his whole UFC career on the ground. That's how he pretty much got dropped originally. I just thought that was interesting. But he's fighting Tai Tuivasa in his first fight back. I think it's going to be to Spain. I think his hands are going to be too heavy. I think he's too much of a unit. Tai Tuivasa, I fear, and I get no pleasure in saying this, I feel like it's just at the point of no return. I think Robelis de Spain, unfortunately, is going to send Tai Tuivasa to the Shadow Realm. But it's cool to see my boy Robelis de Spain back in the UFC. Next fight. Marlon Chito Vera versus Charles Jourdain. This fight's kind of tough. I think it's going to be Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain has a nice little win streak going. I think his last loss, if I remember correctly, was it to John Silva? Let me look this up. His last loss was to John Silva. But looking at his last fights and bantamweight, he's on a nice little winning streak right here. And again, kind of the same with Tai Tuivasa. Unfortunately, I feel like Chito Vera is just at that point of no return. He's just at the point of no return. He's gotten to an older age. He's a good vet, but he's just lost a lot recently. And granted, it is to actually like pretty good competition, pretty good fighters that he's lost to, but I think there's just a point in this game where once the confidence wears down and you go on a losing streak, it's hard to get back out of it. So I'm going to go with Jourdain on this one. Okay. Gable, Fruit Loops, Loophole Stevenson versus Sean Sheriff. I'm going to go with Gable Stevenson. With heavyweight, as I've said before in other videos, they're just blobs, some of them. A lot of them are just blobs. So when you get a skilled fighter like Gable Stevenson, it's not going to be hard for him. Round 1, round 2 KO. Now, moving on to the main card, Alonzo Menifield versus Iwo Baranowski. Baranowski. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize. But I want to go with Iwo. He's 9-0, undefeated. Light heavyweight's kind of the same. Menifield's a good fighter, but I think it's just going to be Iwo. I think he's just the better prospect. The more he's got more motion, and I feel like that's an underrated factor when it comes to picking fights. Who has more motion going into these fights? Iwo definitely does compared to Alonzo Menifield. So I'm gonna go with Iwo. I'm actually quite excited to see this fight. If it lives up to the reputation of both, but we have Renato Moicano versus Brian Ortega. I'm going to go with Moicano here. Moicano's underrated. I think he's underrated. He's across the board really good with the striking and the grappling. And Brian Ortega is moving up to lightweight. He doesn't have to cut down to 145 anymore. But, man, I feel like for the last, like, 3 years or something like that, whenever, like, Brian Ortega is fighting, I feel like the CDC's coming on to my phone screen talking about he's sick, he had to pull out this fight, fever, he couldn't make the weight. I don't know. It's just a lot going on. But again, he is going to 155 now, so he should be physically going better into these fights. But at the same time, he's only fought, I think, twice in 2 years. There could be a lot of ring rust there. I think Renato Moicano has improved a lot since his fight against Brian Ortega. Also, that was when Moicano was a featherweight. Now he is a veteran lightweight. He's used to the weight class. I think I'm going to go with Moicano here. I don't know I hope T-City still has it, I hope he still got it. But I think Moicano is going to take this. We have Duho Choi versus Patricio Pitbull. I'm going to go with Choi on this one. I don't rate Patricio Pitbull. I've said that before. I feel like his tenure in the UFC has been quite disappointing. And honestly, his fighting style, when it's come to the UFC, it's just looked very boring. But I didn't realize this until today. This is Patricio Pitbull's last fight on his UFC contract. I think unless he has to win this, or else he's not going to get another contract. I don't think you can get another contract off the back of beating Dan Ige and losing to Yair and Aaron Pico, and then possibly Choi as well. There's also the possibility where does he need to either submit him or does he need to knock him out in order to get that contract too? He may not get it if he just wins. So there is going to be a Pitbull out there, I think, that's going to be more eager to win this fight, to actually trying to knock him out, to try to get the finish. But I think at the end of the day, like I said in these last few fights, he's just got up to a point in the age where it's just harder. It's hard to do that, so I'm going to go with Choi. My boy. Favorite fighter in the UFC, Arman Tsarukyan. And no, I'm not just saying that because since the beginning of this year, he's been on social media and all these streams and whatnot, and he's become a celebrity. Listen, I've been an Arman fan pretty much ever since he got in the top 15. Like I said before in another video, I was online fighting for my life against these Charles fans saying he's going to beat your boy. And what happened? He beat your boy. I don't care about the shorts falling off. That's just cope. Okay? He was going to get out of it anyway. So anyway, also, completely almost got robbed. Split decision is crazy. Arman won that fight easy. Should have been unanimous decision. That being said, he is fighting Mauricio Rufy in the co-main 5-round fight. And this is probably the number one contender fight. If it's not the number one contender fight, I don't know what is. But that being said, I think Arman's going to get the win. Mauricio Rufy lost to Benoit Saint-Denis. by getting wrestled, controlled, and submitted. And although he has 2 bounce-back wins, a good win against Rafael Fiziev and, well, Michael Chandler, let's just call it a win. He won against Chandler. This is a nightmare matchup, I think, for Rufi. This is a guy that everybody knows, everybody's aware of how good he is and how interesting his striking style is. Nobody that has good grappling is going to want to strike with him. And Arman is the best wrestler, the best grappler in the division. So I think he's going to take him down and submit him. With what submission? I don't know. I could see a full mounted arm triangle, probably like just how he did with Dan Hooker. But I don't see Arman taking too many chances with this guy. You know, it's just a tough fight. It's a tough matchup on the feet whenever you're fighting Rufi. I don't think Arman's going to take any chances. If it was a different fight, if it was Charles, like Arman said, he was going to try and strike with Charles, but he isn't fighting Charles. That being said, I think Arman wins, and he's going to get the next title shot. He better, at least. Oh, man. The main event. Joshua Van, the champion, versus Alexandre Pantoja. You guys know how I feel about Pantoja. I can't tell if I'm pointing at it or not, but that poster over there, as I said before, is Pantoja. Met him. Probably my favorite UFC fighter that I've ever met, and I've met Arman before. But he's fighting Joshua Van in the rematch. It's funny, I was at the Don Tolliver show last Saturday in Miami, and Chase B, his producer, was doing a little pre-show show, basically, where he was DJing and playing a bunch of songs, and he played I Don't Like by Chief Keef, and instantly I felt like I was getting Joshua Van edits flashing in my eyes of him putting straight hands on everybody, just straight paws, just on-site paws. And I was like, I'm kind of psychotic. But Joshua Van is fighting Pantoja. And the thing about this fight is Joshua Van probably has one of the best styles to fight Pantoja. Pantoja is someone that is always walking forward in your face. Hooks, jabs, 1-2s, body kicks, leg kicks, just always trying to move forward, always trying to make you uncomfortable. But Joshua Van, when you try to go in on Joshua Van, it's not going to work. His hands are too good, his hands are too fast, and they're powerful. So honestly, stylistically, this isn't the worst matchup for Joshua Van. But I think the difference is, I think Pantoja will take him down. I think unless he somehow knocks him out in the beginning, Pantoja is going to get a takedown. It's inevitable, in my opinion. It's going to happen. But the difference between Pantoja and Tatsuro Taira is I think Pantoja is constantly going to be looking for that submission. He's going to try to take the back and put the triangle in and then try to get the rear naked choke. He's going to constantly hunt for a submission, as compared to what Tatsuro Taira was doing, where he was hunting for a submission, sure, but he was trying to hold position and prioritize position the most, the full mount. But Joshua Van, who has underrated grappling, managed to get back to his feet and then put straight hands on Tatsuro Taira's head. So, it's going to be an interesting fight. Who do I think is going to win? Listen, captain goes down with the ship. I got to ride with my boy. I think Pantoja is going to get his belt back. Pantoja is going to get his belt back. I have to believe. And I think and honestly, I'm kind of 50-50 anyway, but I think it's going to be Pantoja. I think Pantoja overall is underrated and underappreciated, and I feel like he just got to a point after the Kai Kara France win where people started to appreciate him more, and then he lost his belt in like the worst way possible. I think this is going to be a new level of hunger. Before he had like 4 title defenses or whatever, but this is a new hunger. This is getting back to the top, and I think that's going to give him the edge against Joshua Van. But this is not an easy matchup by any means. This might be the hardest matchup for Pantoja because of the style of Joshua Van and what we saw underrated grappling from Joshua Van. And also for Joshua Van, if he can beat Pantoja, I'll be honest, I don't know who beats him. I thought Tatsuro Taira was going to beat Joshua Van just because stylistically it was the worst matchup for him, just someone that is an amazing wrestler. But the way that he was able to get back to his feet and, put BTA on Tatsuro Taira was crazy. So if he can get past Pantoja, I think he can beat Cap. I think he can beat Kavanaugh. I think he could beat Roy Ball again. I think he could beat Horiguchi. I think at this point Joshua Van is on a different level than the rest of the flyweights. He just has to get past this one guy. But this one guy is probably the second best flyweight in history. So yeah, I think Pantoja is going to get the job done, but I am pretty 50-50 on this. Either way, Saturday, September 19th, 9 p.m. cannot come soon enough. I mean, this card is unreal. There's a lot of good fights on here. And honestly, the press conference with Van and Pantoja, the first one was insane. The second one's going to be good. We get to see Arman in action. There's a lot of good fighters on here. Unfortunately, Fruit Loops is on here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the loophole of Gable Steveson. You'll know what I mean. And yeah, that wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.